I'll look at a colorized version of what's going on with this storm, and the higher cloud tops are accentuated in the darker red colors. You can see it, the rotation around the center. It gets kind of wobbly, and it also fills in, and so again, it's not quite as healthy as it has been over the last several days, but it's still a very, very powerful hurricane. You can see where the worst part of the heavy rainfall is on the west side of it. Certainly Hatteras has been getting some heavy rainfall as well. Widen the picture out, and it's a very detailed view of things. That's why it's sectorized. It only covers this much, but that's what's going on with Hurricane Florence. Want to know what's going on in the future with this? It's still headed toward Wilmington. It's about 100 miles to the east-southeast of Wilmington right now. 110-mile-an-hour winds, moving to the northwest at 15 miles an hour. Now, there's where things are by 2 o'clock in the morning. It's only progressed that far, 100-mile-an-hour winds. So again, it's out there, and it is presenting some problems. 100-mile-an-hour winds coming up by the time it makes landfall at Wilmington at 9 o'clock in the morning. So this thing is still a powerful storm. It's low category 2, but remember, it hasn't moved very much between here and here. So we are looking again at a slow approach to this storm. That means the effects will last longer in terms of heavy rainfall and tide and wind. There's where it is by Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, 85-mile-an-hour winds. Forecast models are really quite tight on bringing it into the Wilmington area. The Euro has a little bit farther southward, hugging the coastline, going along, skipping along on the right along the coastline toward Myrtle Beach. So it would have it here, but you'll note between 12 hours, it's just pounding this area. If it's offshore, it'll likely be stronger than 60 miles an hour. If it's onshore, again, it is starting to weaken on down to a tropical storm. Let's hope it does indeed do that. But again, let's hope it moves along a little bit faster and away from everybody. And if it moves faster, again, the effects will not last as long. But here it is Saturday afternoon at 2 40-mile-an-hour winds. By Saturday or by Saturday night, then on into Sunday afternoon, 30-mile-an-hour winds. And again, it's likely to continue to move northward after that. 25-mile-an-hour winds by Monday afternoon. And then by Tuesday, it's well on off to the north. There's where it is 25-mile-an-hour winds. And again, in the initial quotation, by the way, it should be 105-mile-an-hour winds. That was somehow the software got it wrong there. I was going, huh? When was it 110? 105-mile-an-hour winds as of the 5 p.m. update. And again, moving slowly to the west-northwest at about 5 miles an hour. Now, rainfall is going to be huge. They're going to see to the south of us. They're going to see at least 20 inches in some spots, perhaps as much as 30 inches. So this will be really, really a big rainfall disaster there. 1.5 inches up to about 2.5 inches of rainfall coming up out of the European forecast model. I tend to think the GFS, the American forecast model, might have a little bit better handle on it, but here too, it's not huge. It's spread out over 5 days. So it's got 3.5 to 4 1/3 inches of rainfall, or 4.5 inches of rainfall on into the area. I think that's pretty good. How about wind? Well, so far, these are what the winds are doing as of 6 o'clock in the evening. 37-mile-an-hour steady, dead-on winds at Cape Hatteras itself. Farther to the north, 28, 31, a little bit less toward Manteo. We move on in terms of seeing what the winds are gusting to, which means an occasional pop right on up to this level, 53 miles an hour. We have seen it as high as 67 miles an hour at Hatteras a little bit earlier on, seeing winds gusting to 37 here, 41 here. Obviously, the closer you are to the storm, the more effects that you're going to get. Storm surge potential over 1 foot in the blue, and in other words, what it is normally on a normal day, and over 9 foot on down into these areas, and really even bigger than that once you get close to Wilmington. Over the Albemarle Sound, yeah, we can see some tidal flooding going on. And the western end of the Albemarle Sound, it's kind of out of our viewing area. I think you can see some areas that are greater than 3 feet. We move on to the Hampton Roads areas. Most areas, though, are in blue with a little bit of tidal flooding going on. We got some areas, though, that are picking up a little bit more. And into some of these areas, it's low-lying ground. You can also see toward Poquoson, you can see a little bit of it, but it's not inundating Poquoson. Up the York River, it could back up a little bit more. Certainly on into Mobjack Bay, we can see a little bit more tidal flooding going on into there. And our biggest tide is likely to be Friday during the early afternoon, really for all areas. This is for Sewell's Point, but I think Friday afternoon. It won't be the exact time for other areas. 4.5 to 5.4 is minor. Once you hit 5.5, it becomes moderate. It doesn't get major until 6.5. And right now, we're not really seeing anything more than moderate. moderate tidal flooding on into the region. Lots of cloud cover, and what are we going to get? Yeah, medium chance of tropical storm form wind gusts, mainly along the ocean, but I think we can see it inland on the south side as well. A little bit less of a chance farther northward that you go. Rainfall flooding, medium chance of that because, again, it's, no, we're going to see 4 or 5 inches, but it's going to be over 4 or 5 days. So I think we'll see some rainfall flooding, yes, but it'll be localized. It'll be mainly street kind of flooding. Tidal flooding, yeah, we're going to see that. It'll be moderate tidal flooding. Tornado risk, very low. I think it will increase the farther southward you go across eastern North Carolina, south of the Albemarle Sound. Yeah, good chance of seeing at least a few tornadoes spin on up. Florence tide could be around 5.8 feet, while Hurricane Isabel was about 2 feet higher than that. So again, if you live through Isabel, you're going to be fine with the tide with this one. Hurricane Irene had 7.5 feet. Hurricane Matthew, that's a comparable tidal height. However, the tide was up and didn't go down, and then we added as much as a foot or so of water, rainwater, on top of that. So there was much more significant flooding with Hurricane Matthew than just 5.73 feet. We ended up with a lot of rain, and really it was unexpected to be as high as that. I don't think we're going to see any big surprises, but if we do see a surprise, I think it would be that the tide could come up a little bit higher than that 5.8, but still, I think into the moderate range for the region. Here's what's going on. Conditions worsen with the worst beginning really Friday morning, around mid-morning. Biggest effects from Friday mid-morning on into the pre-dawn hours of Saturday. 25 to 35 mile an hour winds with gusts about 45 miles an hour. And it gradually, I think, will settle in with that. And we can expect tidal flooding around 5.5 to 6. We showed you that Isabel was 7.9. Highest tide will be at 128, and that'll be coming up at Sewell's Point tomorrow. And the brief tropical rains, especially Friday night into Saturday morning. Now, from the Outer Banks, north to south, huge range of conditions. Gusts of 50 miles an hour north to 75 miles an hour south, really from today on into Saturday early, and then rain from as much as 5 inches north to as much as 10 inches on the southern portion of the Outer Banks. That's what's going on with our forecast. Again, you can join us for Fox 43 News at 7, Fox 43 News at 10, WAVY News 10 at 11, and of course we'll be here throughout the nighttime hours and of course during the day on Friday and if need be on Saturday.